Core series has been around for some time, managing to find its niche with hardcore gearheads with a penchant for giant robots. Armored Core 4 takes things up a notch, making its nuts and bolts design even more in-depth. The question is whether all the customization options have limited the game's audience or created an entirely new one. The game takes place in the distant future, which, as every gamer knows, is post-apocalyptic. Mega corporations vie for control of the populace, while mercenary mech pilots known as Ravens carry out their agendas by force. Like past Armored Core games, the story is relatively complex and convoluted, dealing with intercontinental politics and conflicts rather than really involving the player in the story by fleshing out characters. It's pretty lackluster stuff, and in this respect, nothing has changed. The cornerstone of the Armored Core series has always been its highly customizable mechs, or ACs, which can be tinkered with in a multitude of ways. From choosing different arms, legs, torsos, and heads, to different boosters, generators, defensive parts, and of course weapons, the game offers players literally thousands of options to choose from before hitting the battlefield. The process of fine-tuning a mech can be compared to tuning up a futuristic car. It's a lot of hard work, but it can be very rewarding. Basically, you try to balance weight and energy with speed and firepower. The construction and tuning system has gotten even deeper, allowing you to manually adjust boosting thresholds and other minute but potentially crucial details. Thankfully, they'll calibrate automatically if it's too much for you to deal with, and for the average player, it'll be way too much. Parts are bought with paychecks you get for blowing stuff up and clearing missions. You're able to save several different AC configurations so that you won't have to sort and swap every part over and over again. With a limited budget, quickly shifting your parts around can still become a problem. Hardcore fans that love this amount of depth will be completely satisfied. Others will be left scratching their heads, wishing they could just blow something up already. In fact, if you're looking for a fast-paced action game with easy controls and a simple, user-friendly interface, this isn't it. The action is definitely fast-paced, especially online, but the controls constantly ride the line between fun and frustration. The same can be said of the entire game. Mission types are pretty standard, including escorting, defending, attacking, and assassination. Before each mission, you're given a briefing that lays out your objectives and gives some basic intel about the enemies that you'll be facing. These briefings never give you more than a vague idea of how to prepare yourself for the fight, and you're practically forced to radically overhaul your design from one mission to the next in order to find a sensible solution. Some gamers may enjoy the demanding challenge, while others will want to throw their controllers across the room. Oftentimes, it's excessively difficult to fulfill an objective without a perfectly suited mech design. It's rigid and requires tedious trial and error. Regardless of the configuration, your machine can feel clunky at first, especially with heavier mechs. But the series has at least moved toward a solid analog control scheme that isn't completely baffling. Controls for both the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions are identical, allowing you to switch between handheld and shoulder-mounted weapons on the fly, relegating the boost controls to the trigger buttons for easy strafing, flying, and the newly added quick boost button, which can make it much easier to avoid incoming attacks. Playing Armored Core 4 can be an exercise in frustration, yet the feeling of accomplishment you get when you finally get things right can be a nice payoff. The single-player game is decidedly linear, following a series of missions that are broken up into chapters, which are bookended by cutscenes to advance the story. Previous games allow you to make choices about which corporation or colony to fight for, but this time around, it's just one mission after the next. Some missions are optional, but if you want to build the fastest or strongest mech that money can buy, you'll want to complete them all. This formula has always been a constant in the Armored Core games, so it's a bit of a letdown to see that it's been simplified here. Traditionally, Armored Core games include an arena option to distract you from the story mode, where you can fight your way against AI opponents to the top of the heap. This time, it's all being done online the way it was always meant to be played, making it much more fun and engaging since you're fighting against real human opponents rather than AI-controlled bots. Players can get into several different modes with up to 7 other players via the PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, System Link, and Split Screen. The modes include 1-on-1 matches, 2-on-2, and 4-on-4 team matches, or 4 and 8 player battle royales. A ranking system is also in place for those who like to spend most of their time online. For gamers with an ego the size of a giant robot and a mean competitive streak, this is what they've been waiting to play. In all, you'll get a lot of playtime out of Armored Core 4 with its various modes and options. Its online offerings aren't as interesting as those in Chromehounds, but they're still fairly robust. That is, if you can tolerate the rigid, sim-based gameplay. Past the faster, more boost-friendly gameplay, a lot has stayed the same in Armored Core 4. The learning curve is steep, the controls take effort to master, and the single-player game is ultimately there to prepare you for the head-to-head matches. It's a very specific game experience that rewards trial and error and fails to appeal to a broad audience in the process.